"I want to buy the Lamborghini." And they laughed at the old woman, without knowing she was the owner's mother. Evelyn Harrington felt her legs trembling as she gripped her wooden cane tightly. The two salesmen's laughter echoed through the dealership like sharp knives, cutting something much deeper than her pride. "Which car would you like to buy, ma'am?" asked the taller of the two, trying to control his laughter. "That one there? The red Lamborghini?" "Yes, that one," replied Evelyn, keeping her voice steady despite the heat rising in her face. The other salesman, wearing sunglasses even indoors, couldn't contain himself. He doubled over laughing, bracing his hands on his knees. Sorry, he said between laughs. "It's just that you... with that dress? And those flip-flops?" Evelyn looked down. Her flip-flops were indeed worn, the back starting to come apart. The simple grey dress was one of those she bought at the flea market near the fair. She had never cared about that. Expensive clothes weren't part of who she was. "I have the money," said Evelyn, pulling her phone from her pocket. "I can show you my bank account." Of course," the tall salesman made an exaggerated gesture. "You must have saved quite a bit from your retirement, right? But that car there costs over $1 million. Cash. I know how much it costs." At that moment, a man in a dark grey suit appeared from the back. His hair was impeccably slicked back, and he wore a smile that didn't reach his eyes. A small golden badge on his chest identified him. Gregory Parker, manager. "What's the problem here?" he asked, but his tone already carried judgment. "No problem, Mr. Parker," said the salesman with sunglasses. "Just a misunderstanding. This lady must have come to the wrong place." Gregory examined Evelyn from head to toe. His gaze lingered on the flip-flops, then moved up over the wrinkled dress, the old cane, until it reached her face. Evelyn saw the moment he decided she wasn't worth his time. "Ma'am, this is a luxury car dealership," Gregory explained with false patience. "The cars here are very expensive. Perhaps you're looking for the used car lot on Wilshire Boulevard." "I want to buy this Lamborghini," insisted Evelyn, pointing with her cane at the shiny red car that dominated the center of the showroom. The three men exchanged glances. Gregory sighed. "Ma'am, this car costs $1.2 million. Cash. Do you have any idea how much money that is?" "I do, and I can pay for it." "Of course you can," said Gregory, sarcasm dripping from every word. "Tyler, Jason, don't you have real customers to attend to?" The two salesmen looked at each other and began to move away, still smiling. But Gregory wasn't finished. "Look, I'll be honest with you because I don't like wasting time. People like you don't buy cars here. You're getting in the way of my real customers, those who can actually pay." Evelyn felt something break inside her. It wasn't anger. It was a deep sadness, a disappointment that went far beyond that moment. How many times in her life had she been judged by her appearance? How many doors had closed before she could even show who she really was? "I can show you I have the money," she tried once more, her voice beginning to falter. "No need to show anything. Marcus," Gregory called loudly, waving to a security guard near the entrance. "Please escort the lady to the exit." The security guard, a large man in a black uniform, approached. Unlike the salesman, he seemed uncomfortable with the situation. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said quietly. "Let's go out this way." Evelyn let herself be guided to the door. Her legs barely responded. 70 years of life, so many battles won, so much sweat and blood shed to build everything she had, and still she was treated as nothing, as less than nothing. Outside, the Los Angeles sun beat down hard on the asphalt. Evelyn stepped a few meters away from the entrance and stopped under a tree. Her hands were shaking so much she almost dropped her phone when she tried to make the call. "Richard?" she said when he answered. "Son, I need to talk to you. Can you come to the dealership on Wilshire Boulevard?" "Mom, what happened? Is everything okay?" His voice was heavy with concern. "Yes, it is. I just need to sort something out in person." "Mom, are you crying?" Evelyn touched her own face and realized yes, tears were streaming down without her noticing. "It's nothing. Just come, please." She hung up before he could ask more questions. She sat on a bench near the tree and stared at the dealership entrance. Other customers came and went, all well-dressed, all with imported cars parked out front, all being treated with the respect she had been denied. Inside the dealership, Gregory was explaining the situation to Tyler and Jason. "You need to be careful with these kinds of people," he was saying. "You let them in, they start asking questions, wasting time, and the real customers leave thinking this place is nothing special." "But she seemed so sure of herself," commented Tyler. "Do you think she actually had the money?" Gregory gave a short laugh. "Of course not. These old folks get confused, think they have more money than they do. Or it's a scam. They try to pass bad checks, things like that." "She wanted to show her bank account on the phone," Jason recalled. "And you think I'd waste my time looking at a photoshopped picture?" Gregory shook his head. "You two still have a lot to learn about this business. When you know how to filter worthwhile clients from people just looking around, then you'll sell more." The two salesmen nodded, absorbing the lesson. 15 minutes later, a black car stopped in front of the dealership. It was a luxury sedan, gleaming under the sun. Out stepped a man in his 40s, tall, wearing glasses, dressed in a navy blue suit that was clearly custom-made. He looked around urgently until he saw Evelyn sitting on the bench. Richard practically ran to her. Evelyn stood up, and he hugged her tightly. "Mum, what happened? Why are you crying?" "I'll tell you later." Evelyn wiped her face with her hands. "Just hold me for a while." They stayed like that for a few minutes. Richard was the youngest of Evelyn's 3 children, the baby she had at 35 just before her husband died in an accident. He had always been sensitive, always attentive to her feelings. And in the last 2 years, he had been sick, a heart condition that almost took him. Almost, but not quite. The doctors said he was fine now, that the surgery had been a success. "Let's go inside," said Richard, holding her arm. "I don't want to." "Mum, you called me here. What do you need to sort out?" Evelyn took a deep breath. She looked at the dealership, at the glass doors that had expelled her. "I wanted to buy a car for you, a Lamborghini, to celebrate that you're well, that you got through the surgery. But they laughed at me, Richard. They threw me out." Richard's expression changed completely. The worry gave way to a cold, controlled anger. Who? Who did this?" "The manager and the salesman. They all laughed." "Mum, do you know who owns this dealership? I don't care who owns it. They treated me like I was nothing." Richard pulled his phone from his pocket. "I'm going in there and firing everyone. Today, now." "No," Evelyn held his arm. "Not like that. Mom, they can't do this to you. You built all this, all of it." Evelyn looked at her son. He was different from the last times she had seen him. Stronger, healthier. Color had returned to his face. His eyes no longer had that deep weariness that scared her so much. He was truly better. The surgery, the medications, everything had worked. She had begged so much, prayed so much for him to be okay. And now he was there, strong, defending her. "I have a better plan," said Evelyn. "What plan?" "First, take me home. I need to think." Richard didn't like it, but he knew his mother well enough to know that arguing would be useless. He helped her into the car and they drove off. While driving, he kept looking at her in the rearview mirror. Evelyn was quiet, looking out the window, but he could see her mind working. He recognized that look. It was the same look she had when she was building the business, when a difficult problem appeared. Evelyn's apartment was in an old building in the Silver Lake neighborhood. It wasn't luxurious, but it was comfortable. 3 bedrooms, a spacious living room, a balcony where she grew her plants. Richard always insisted that she move to a better, more modern place, but Evelyn liked it there. She had neighbors she had known for decades, a bakery on the corner where she had coffee every morning, a small park where she walked when her knee didn't hurt too much. "Do you want me to make some tea?" offered Richard when they entered. "No need. Sit here." They sat on the living room sofa. Evelyn took off her slippers and massaged her own feet. "Mom, let me handle this. You don't need to go through that humiliation again." It wasn't humiliation, it was a lesson. A lesson? For them, they just don't know it yet. Evelyn had a strange glint in her eyes now. "Tomorrow, I want you to get me a job there." "What do you mean?" "As a cleaner. I want to work as a cleaner at the dealership." Richard thought he had misheard. "Mum, have you lost your mind? After what they did to you, you want to work there?" "Trust me. No, I won't allow it. I'm going in there tomorrow and firing the manager. That's it. And he'll leave without learning anything. He'll find another job and keep treating people the way he treated me. It solves nothing." Evelyn took her son's hand. "Teach me how to get in there as a cleaner, just for a few days." "Mom." "Richard, how many times have I asked you for anything?" He fell silent. Evelyn never asked for anything. She was always the one who gave, who supported, who solved everyone's problems. "All right," he agreed reluctantly, "but only for 3 days. If nothing happens in 3 days, I'll handle it my way. 3 days is all I need." That night, Evelyn barely slept. She kept thinking about everything she had built. She started by selling used car parts in a rented garage in East Los Angeles. It was the year 1980. She had just lost her husband and had 3 small children to raise. Everyone said she wouldn't make it, that a woman alone couldn't manage to raise 3 kids and run a business. But Evelyn was never one to give up. She woke up at 5 in the morning, prepared the children's breakfast, got everything organized and went to the garage. She spent the whole day there, negotiating with junkyards, cleaning parts, helping customers. She came home at night, exhausted, but always had energy to help the kids with their homework, to listen to their stories of the day. It took years, but the business grew. From the garage, she managed to rent a larger commercial space. She started importing parts. Then she opened a second store, then a third. When she realized the dealership market was growing, she sold part of the parts business and invested everything in the first dealership. It was a risky bet. Many said it was crazy for a woman to try to enter this male-dominated market. But Evelyn knew what she was doing. She treated customers with respect, sold good cars, kept prices fair. The dealership prospered. And then came the second, the third, the fourth. Today, at 70 years old, Evelyn had a network of 12 dealerships spread across Los Angeles, but very few people knew she was the owner. She put her children in management, stayed behind the scenes. She didn't like spotlights, interviews, appearing at events. She preferred simplicity, the quiet life in her Silver Lake apartment. And it was exactly this simplicity that got her kicked out of her own dealership. The next day, Richard arrived early at her apartment. He carried a backpack with a cleaning lady's uniform. "I managed it. I spoke with the HR manager. You start today." "What about Gregory, the store manager?" "He doesn't know anything. The HR manager works directly for me. He has no way of knowing I authorized it." Evelyn put on the light blue uniform, tied her hair in a bun, grabbed her documents. She looked at herself in the mirror. She was unrecognizable. Just another elderly working woman among many. "Mom, it's not too late to give up on this," Richard tried. "I'm already ready. Let's go." They arrived at the dealership at 7 in the morning before opening. Evelyn entered through the back along with other cleaning staff. A supervisor named Brenda greeted her. "You're the new one, Evelyn?" "Yes, I am." "Well, the work is simple. Clean the showroom, the bathrooms, the offices. We always start with the public areas because the dealership opens at 9. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. Evelyn picked up the cleaning supplies and started working. She wiped down the cars, cleaned the windows, swept the floor. No one paid attention to her. To the arriving salespeople, she was invisible, just another cleaning lady doing her job. Gregory arrived at 8:30. Evelyn saw him coming in with his impeccable suit, greeting the salespeople, checking if everything was in order. He passed by her twice and didn't even look at her. At 9, the dealership opened. The first customers started arriving. Evelyn paid attention to everything while pretending to be focused on cleaning. She noticed how the salespeople assessed every customer who came in. If the person was well-dressed, arrived in a nice car, they were greeted with big smiles and offers of coffee. If they looked more humble, the service was cold, quick, almost aggressive. She saw a man about 60 years old come in wanting information about a car. He wore simple jeans and a button-down shirt. Tyler went to assist him with an unfriendly face. "This one costs $150,000, said Tyler, tapping the hood of a sedan. Cash. Can I finance it? Asked the man. You can, but the payment will be high. About $5,000 a month. Wow, it's really expensive. It's an imported car. Tyler was already looking away, searching for another customer. If you want something cheaper, there's the store over there on Wilshire Boulevard. The man thanked him and left. As soon as he left, Tyler and Jason started laughing. Comes here wanting to pay in installments, said Tyler. If you don't have money, don't come to a luxury dealership. Evelyn squeezed the cloth she was holding tightly. She kept cleaning, kept listening. All morning long she saw the same scene repeat several times. Customers were judged by their appearance, treated with disdain if they didn't seem rich enough. At lunchtime, Evelyn went to eat in the small employee break room in the back. She sat alone at a corner table, opening the lunchbox she had brought. The food was cold, but she didn't even notice. She was thinking about everything she had observed that morning. Excuse me, can I sit here? Evelyn looked up. It was a young man, probably no more than 25 years old, thin with a sleepy face, wearing the same suit as the other salespeople, but his looked worn, shiny at the elbows from so much use. Of course, said Evelyn. The young man sat down and opened his lunchbox, rice, beans, and a small piece of chicken. You're new here, right? He asked. I'm Matthew. Evelyn, I started today. Cool. How's it going? Different. Matthew gave a tired smile. I can imagine. This place can be a bit heavy sometimes. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Evelyn observed the young man. He seemed exhausted, as if he were carrying a huge weight on his shoulders. Have you been working here long? She asked. 6 months. I'm trying to save up for my mother's treatment. She needs surgery, but with Medicare the waiting list is way too long. I understand. Sorry, I didn't mean to unload on you right away. Matthew scratched his head, embarrassed. It's just that sometimes this place suffocates me, you know? Why? Matthew looked around, making sure they were alone. The guys here aren't very ethical, let's put it that way. What do you mean? Ah, never mind. I don't want to get you into anything on your very first day. But Evelyn saw something in his eyes, an honesty, a decency that seemed out of place in there. She decided to take a chance. You can trust me, she said softly. I'm just a cleaner. Who would I tell? Matthew hesitated, but then he started talking. He told her about the scheme that several salespeople were running with more vulnerable customers, especially the elderly. They inflated prices, created fake fees, pushed unnecessary insurance. The extra money was split between them and Gregory. I never took part, said Matthew, his voice low. And that's why they treat me badly. Gregory is always threatening to fire me, says I don't have what it takes to work here, that I'm too soft. But you didn't report it. To whom? The owner never shows up, and if I report it and nothing happens, I lose my job. I can't afford that, not with my mum depending on me. Evelyn felt a mix of anger and sadness. That young man was trapped. He needed the job but suffered every day because he didn't agree with what he saw around him. What if I told you this is going to change, Mart, said Evelyn. How? Trust me, it will change. But I need your help. Matthew looked at her, confused. My help? I'm just a salesperson who barely makes any sales. You're more than that. You're honest. And in this place, that's worth more than anything. Evelyn didn't explain further, but something in her voice, in the firmness of her gaze, made Matthew believe. They exchanged phone numbers and went back to work. During the afternoon, Evelyn continued her silent observation. She saw Gregory go into his office with Tyler, closing the door. She discreetly approached, pretending to clean the nearby hallway, and managed to catch bits of the conversation. Out 3 this week already. The elderly are easy, they don't check the amounts properly. Add another $2,000 to the administrative fee, no one will notice. If anyone asks, we say it's standard for the dealership. Evelyn recorded everything on her phone. The device was old, the audio quality wasn't the best, but it was understandable. At the end of the day, when the dealership closed, Evelyn went home. Richard was waiting for her, anxious. So, did you find out anything? More than I imagined. Evelyn showed him the phone. They're stealing from customers. Systematically. mostly the elderly. Richard's expression turned grim. "Mum, now you have to let me handle this." "Not yet, I need more evidence. And there's a young man there, Matthew, he's going to help me." "Who is this Matthew?" "An honest salesperson. The only one, it seems." Evelyn spent the rest of the night planning her next steps. She knew she couldn't just go in and fire everyone based on hidden recordings. She needed solid proof, documents, witnesses, and more importantly, she needed to teach them a lesson they'd never forget. On the second day, Evelyn arrived early. She had brought a better phone, borrowed from Richard. With a discreet camera, she could leave recording while she cleaned. She positioned the phone in strategic places throughout the day, always disguised among cleaning supplies or ornaments. During the morning, she witnessed a scene that left her particularly outraged. An elderly lady, looking about 80 years old, came in alone. She wanted to buy a car for her grandson, who had passed his college entrance exams. Jason attended to her with false friendliness. "A gift, how lovely," he smiled broadly. "We have a perfect model here. It costs $75,000. "It's a bit expensive." The lady looked nervously at the price. "I saw it online for $60. "Ah, but that doesn't include our special extended warranty package. It's another $8,000, but it's totally worth it." "$8,000 just for warranty?" "It's because the car is imported, ma'am. The parts are very expensive. Without the warranty, any problem will cost a fortune." The lady ended up agreeing. She signed the papers, swiped her card. Only after she left did Evelyn check the documents that were copied on Jason's desk. The extended warranty cost $3,000, not $8,000, and the car was advertised online for $62,000, not $75,000, a difference of $28,000. Money that this lady had probably saved for years to give a special gift to her grandson. Evelyn photographed all the documents and sent them to Richard. "Mum, we have enough evidence now," he called as soon as he received the photos. "Let's sue them." "Not yet." "Why?" "Because I want to see how far the corruption goes, and I want them to confess everything in front of me." At lunchtime, Matthew looked for Evelyn in the cafeteria. "You were right," he said quietly. "Last night I kept thinking, I can't keep being a silent accomplice to all this just because I need the job." "Are you willing to help me?" "I am. What do you need?" "Documents, proof of the frauds, everything you can get without raising suspicions." Matthew agreed. He spent the afternoon discreetly making copies of contracts and receipts, sending everything to the email Evelyn had created. There were dozens of cases. People who had been deceived, overcharged, pushed into predatory loans. On the third day, Evelyn arrived with a plan. She called her friend Barbara, a retired lawyer who had worked with her in the early years of the business. "Barbara, I need a favor." "Evelyn, long time. What favor?" "I need you to pretend to be my rich niece and come with me to a dealership." Barbara laughed. "You and your crazy ideas. But you're right, I'll go. When?" "This afternoon, we're going to buy a Lamborghini." After finishing the morning cleaning, Evelyn went home, changed clothes, and returned with Barbara. Her friend was impeccable, wearing an expensive dress, discreet but visibly costly jewelry, carrying a designer bag. Evelyn went back to wearing her simple dress, but this time she had fixed herself up a bit more, combed her hair, put on lipstick. They entered the dealership at 2 in the afternoon. Gregory saw them immediately and came running. "Good afternoon, welcome!" The contrast with the treatment from 3 days ago was striking. "How can I help you?" "We're looking for a Lamborghini," said Barbara, her voice firm and polite. "For my aunt here." Gregory looked at Evelyn and showed no recognition. To him, she was just another customer, this time accompanied by someone who clearly had money. "Excellent choice." Gregory guided them to the red Lamborghini, the same one Evelyn had pointed out 3 days before. "This is our top-of-the-line model, $1,200,000. My aunt wants to pay in cash," informed Barbara. "Wonderful." Gregory's eyes lit up. "Shall we go to my office to sort out the details?" They sat in a meeting room. Gregory brought coffee, offered water, was extremely attentive. Evelyn stayed silent, letting Barbara lead the negotiation. "So the total is $1,200,000? asked Barbara. "That's right, plus administrative fees, of course." "What fees?" documentation fee, transfer fee, inspection fee. The standard. It comes to about 15,000. Evelyn knew those fees didn't exist. Or rather, there were. But together they didn't amount to more than 3,000 reais. What about insurance? Continued Barbara. Ah, insurance is essential. Gregory perked up. For a car of this level, I recommend our premium package. It covers everything, just 25,000 a year. Barbara wrote everything down in a little notebook she had brought. And if my aunt doesn't want this insurance? Well, then she's on her own. If something happens to the car, it will cost a fortune to fix. It's a Lamborghini, the parts are imported. Evelyn decided to join the conversation. Online, I saw that this insurance costs 15,000. Gregory looked at her, a bit surprised that she was speaking. You must have seen basic plans. Ours is premium, it covers much more. What things? Well, Gregory hesitated. It covers theft, accident, fire. The basic one covers that too. Evelyn kept her tone calm. What does the premium cover that the basic one doesn't? Gregory was getting impatient. Ma'am, if you want to question every detail, perhaps this isn't the right car for you. I just want to understand what I'm paying for. Look, I'll be honest. Gregory crossed his arms. This is a very expensive car. If you can't afford the fees and proper insurance, maybe it's better to consider a cheaper model. I can afford it, said Evelyn. I just want to know if the amounts you're charging me are real or if you're cheating me. Gregory's face turned red. What are you accusing me of? Of charging more because you think I'm a confused old lady who won't check the prices? That's absurd. Gregory stood up. I won't tolerate being disrespected like this in my own dealership. Your dealership? Evelyn also stood up. This dealership isn't yours, and I know exactly how much each fee should cost because I checked at all the other 11 dealerships in the network. Gregory stopped. Something in Evelyn's voice, in the way she spoke, made him hesitate. How do you know there are 11 dealerships? Because I own all of them. The silence that followed was absolute. Gregory turned white, his mouth opening and closing without making a sound. Barbara hid a smile. You... Gregory tried to speak. 3 days ago I came here wanting to buy a Lamborghini for my son, continued Evelyn, her voice sharp as glass. And you laughed at me, called me confused, had security remove me from here, all because I was wearing old flip-flops and a simple dress. I didn't know... Gregory was trembling. It shouldn't matter if you knew or not. Evelyn's voice rose. You should treat all people with respect, no matter how they're dressed. But instead, you created a system here where customers are robbed, humiliated, cheated. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Mrs. Evelyn, I can explain. Gregory tried. Can you? Then explain the 15,000 reais in fees that don't exist. Explain the insurance you charge 25,000 for when it costs 15. Explain why you teach salespeople to cheat the elderly. I never, he began, but his voice failed. I have recordings, I have documents, I have witnesses, I have proof of everything. Evelyn took her phone out of her pocket. And in half an hour, I'm going to gather all the employees of this dealership, and you will be held accountable. Gregory collapsed in the chair, putting his face in his hands. Evelyn and Barbara left the room and went straight to the administrative office. There they found Matthew. Gather everyone in the showroom, said Evelyn. All the salespeople, all the employees, now. Matthew ran to notify everyone. In 15 minutes, about 20 people were gathered in the showroom, including salespeople, receptionists, cleaning staff and mechanics. Everyone looked confused, not understanding what was happening. Some recognized Evelyn as the new cleaning lady. Others had never paid attention to her. Richard arrived shortly after, followed by 2 people from the company's legal department. Evelyn asked them to bring a speaker and connected her phone. Then she started playing the recordings. The first one was of the conversation between Gregory and Tyler, talking about inflating prices for the elderly. Some employees widened their eyes. Tyler turned pale. The second recording was of Jason pushing the overpriced warranty to the 80-year-old woman. The third, fourth, fifth. Evelyn had hours of material. When the recordings ended, the silence was total. No one knew where to look. "My name is Evelyn Harrington," she said, her voice echoing through the showroom, "and I am the founder and owner of all the dealerships in this network. 3 days ago, I came here wanting to buy a car. And you," she pointed to Gregory, Tyler, and Jason, "laughed at me. You threw me out. You treated me like trash, all because of my appearance." Several employees looked shocked at the accused trio. "For the past 3 days, I've worked here as a cleaning lady, and I found out the problem wasn't just with me. You mistreat anyone who doesn't seem rich enough. Worse, you steal from these people. You inflate prices, create fake fees, push unnecessary products, and all of this while putting the money in your own pockets." "Mrs. Harrington, I can explain," Gregory began. "I don't want explanations. I want confessions." She gestured to Richard, who handed her a stack of documents. "Here I have contracts from the last 6 months, all with irregularities, all with improper charges." Evelyn flipped through the papers. "I'm giving an opportunity to each of you who participated in this. Confess now, return the money you stole, and I won't press charges. I'll just fire you. But if I have to find out on my own who was involved, then I will go after each one of you, and I won't have any mercy." No one said anything for a long minute. Then Tyler stepped forward. "It was Gregory," he said, his voice trembling. "He came up with everything. Said that's how it was done in a luxury dealership, that everyone did it." "You traitor," Gregory shouted. "You were in on everything. Because you forced me. You said I'd be fired if I didn't participate." Jason also started speaking, trying to defend himself, blaming Gregory. Other salespeople joined the argument. The showroom turned into a pandemonium of accusations and counter-accusations. Evelyn raised her hand, asking for silence. "Enough. I don't want to hear any more." She looked at Richard. "Fire Gregory, Tyler, Jason, and these 4 others that I know were involved. Termination for cause, and we'll press criminal charges against all of them." "No, please." Gregory fell to his knees. "I have a family. I have kids to support." "You should have thought of that before stealing and humiliating people." Evelyn's voice was cold as ice. "Before throwing me out of here as if I were nothing. How many other people have you treated like that? How many other elderly have you stolen from?" Gregory couldn't answer. He just cried, his face buried in his hands. Evelyn turned to the rest of the employees. "For those who stay, know that things are going to change. Completely. There will be no more discrimination here. Every customer will be treated with the same respect, no matter how they're dressed or how much money they appear to have. And if I find out anyone is cheating customers, there won't be a second chance." She walked over to Matthew, who was in the corner, still in shock from everything. "You," said Evelyn. "What's your name again?" "Matthew, ma'am." "Matthew, starting today, you are the new manager of this dealership." The entire showroom erupted in murmurs. Matthew froze. Ma'am, I'm only 25. I don't have the experience for—" "You have the only experience that matters." Evelyn placed her hand on his shoulder. "You're honest, and you care about people. The rest we can teach." Tears began to stream down Matthew's face. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything. Just promise me one thing. When you see someone coming in here, no matter how they're dressed, you'll treat them the way you'd want your mother to be treated. Can you do that?" "I can, I promise." Evelyn smiled. It was the first genuine smile she'd given in days. In the following days, the story spread quickly through the company. The other 11 dealerships learned what had happened. Some managers grew nervous, worried that Evelyn might conduct a company-wide investigation. And she did. For a month, Evelyn personally visited each of her dealerships, always unannounced, always dressed simply. She tested how she was treated, observed how the salespeople handled other customers. She found problems in 3 of the 12 stores. Not as serious as the first one, but problems nonetheless. She made dismissals, promoted new people, implemented mandatory training on ethics and respect. But the project that excited her most was turning that first dealership, where it all began, into something special. She created a pilot sales program for seniors. Every first Saturday of the month, the store opened exclusively for customers over 60. There were special discounts, free financial consulting, detailed explanations about each car. The salespeople were trained to be patient, to explain everything calmly, to never make customers feel rushed or foolish for asking questions. The program was a huge success. Seniors came from all over Los Angeles to buy cars at that dealership. Evelyn's story had leaked to the press, and she became a sort of hero to the senior community. TV programs wanted to interview her. Magazines wanted to do features. She refused almost all, but ended up accepting an interview for a local program. "Mrs. Harrington, what motivated you to do all this?" asked the host. "It wasn't motivation, it was necessity," Evelyn replied. "Elderly people are invisible in this society. No one takes us seriously, no one respects us, and I wanted to show that this needs to change." "And what would you say to other business owners watching this? That it doesn't matter how much money you have, how many businesses you've built. If you don't treat people with dignity, you haven't built anything of value." The interview was seen by millions of people. Other companies began creating similar programs for seniors. Evelyn received awards, recognition, but none of that mattered as much as the letters she received. Letters from seniors thanking her for finally being treated with respect. Letters from families thanking her because their parents and grandparents were no longer being cheated. 2 months after the revelation at the dealership, Evelyn received an unexpected visit at her apartment. It was Gregory. He looked different, thinner, unshaven, with deep bags under his eyes. Nothing like the arrogant man in the impeccable suit she had met. "Mrs. Harrington, I know I have no right to be here," he said when she opened the door. "But I needed to speak with you." Evelyn hesitated but let him in. They sat in the living room, an awkward silence between them. "I came to apologize," Gregory began, "for what I did, for the way I treated you, and for everything I did to the other customers. Your apologies don't change anything. I know, but I needed to say it anyway." He looked at his hands. "After I was fired, my life fell apart. My wife left me. I lost the apartment. I had to move in with my parents. And all this time I've been thinking about how I reached that point, where that person I became came from. And did you figure it out? I realized I was getting lost bit by bit. It started small, taking a bribe here, inflating a price there, and each time it got easier. I convinced myself everyone did it, that it was normal. But it wasn't normal, it was wrong. And I knew it was wrong." Evelyn stayed silent, just listening. "I'm going to therapy now," continued Gregory. "Trying to understand why I did that. And I'm looking for a job, trying to start over. But no one wants to hire someone who was fired for cause from a company like yours. And what do you expect me to do?" "Nothing. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know that I learned my lesson, and that I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be a better person." Evelyn studied the man before her. She saw genuine remorse in his eyes. She saw someone who had hit rock bottom and was trying to climb back up. "Do you have children?" she asked. "I do. An 8-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl. They live with their mother now. I see them every 2 weeks." "And what do you tell them about what happened?" Gregory took a deep breath. "I tell them the truth. That their father did wrong things and is paying for it. That sometimes in life we make bad decisions and have to deal with the consequences." Evelyn stood up and went to the kitchen. She returned with 2 glasses of water. She handed one to Gregory and sat down again. "You know Matthew, the young man I promoted, has a sick mother," she said. "I didn't know. She needed an expensive surgery. And do you know who paid for it?" Gregory shook his head. "I did. With some of the money we recovered from the clients you stole from. And do you know what Matthew did with his first paycheck as manager? He donated half to a senior shelter." Evelyn took a sip of water. "That's character, Gregory. That's being a person of value. It has nothing to do with how much money you make or what position you hold. It's about who you are when no one is watching." "I understand that now. I hope you do. Because if you don't really change, you'll end up ruining your life again. And worse, you'll ruin your children's lives." Gregory nodded, tears welling up again. "I will change. I need to change." After he left, Evelyn kept thinking about the conversation. Did people really change? Could Gregory actually be different? She wanted to believe so. She needed to believe. Otherwise, what was the point of all that struggle? 3 months passed. The program for the elderly was going so well that Evelyn decided to expand it to all 12 dealerships. Matthew was performing exceptionally as manager. The store's sales had skyrocketed because the reputation for honesty and respect attracted customers from all over the city. It was on one of those Saturday mornings, during the special day for seniors, that Evelyn got a surprise. She was helping at the reception when she saw Gregory come in. He looked different again, neater, wearing simple but clean clothes, and beside him was his mother, a white-haired lady leaning on a cane. Matthew saw Gregory first and grew tense, but Evelyn signaled for him to let it be. "Mrs. Harrington," said Gregory as he approached, "this is my mother, Mrs. Ruth. She wants to buy a car." "Is that right?" Evelyn extended her hand to the lady. "Yes," Mrs. Ruth had a soft voice. "My son told me the whole story. Everything he did, how he was fired, his apologies, and I wanted to meet the woman who had the courage to confront him, who had the courage not to accept being disrespected." "It's a pleasure to meet you." "My son is not a bad person anymore," continued Mrs. Ruth. "He was lost for a while, but he's finding his way back. And part of that is thanks to you. I didn't do anything special." "Yes, you did. You could have just sued everyone and moved on. But instead you created something positive. You're changing how people are treated. That's much more than most would do." Evelyn smiled. "So, shall we pick out a car for you?" Matthew showed up and guided Mrs. Ruth through the showroom. Gregory stayed behind with Evelyn. "I got a job," he said, "at a small car dealership. I work as a regular salesperson. The salary is a third of what I used to make here. But it's honest. And for the first time in years, I can sleep at night without a guilty conscience." "I'm happy for you. Mrs. Evelyn, I know I don't deserve it, but do you think someday, if I prove I've really changed, you would consider giving me a second chance?" Evelyn thought for a moment. "Ask me again in a year. If you're still working honestly, if your kids are proud of you, if you've truly changed, then yes, I would consider it." Gregory's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. That's more than I deserve." He went to join his mother, and Evelyn watched. Matthew was patiently explaining every detail of a car to Mrs. Ruth, answering her questions calmly and attentively. That's how it should be. That's how it always should have been. Richard appeared beside her. "You're too soft, Mom. You should have sent him away as soon as he walked in." "Maybe, but everyone deserves a chance to redeem themselves, as long as it's a deserved chance. And if he doesn't change, then he loses the chance. Simple as that." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Another month passed. Evelyn was at home on a Sunday afternoon when Richard called, his voice urgent. "Mom, something happened." "What is it?" "There's a story in the paper today, about you, and it's not good." Evelyn asked him to come over. 20 minutes later, Richard arrived with the newspaper. The headline read, "Billionaire businesswoman pretended to be a cleaner to spy on employees." The article painted Evelyn as a kind of cruel spy who invaded employees' privacy. It said she acted in bad faith, set a trap, and could have handled everything administratively without all this drama. There were interviews with Tyler and Jason playing the victim, saying they were unfairly fired, that Evelyn manipulated the situation. "This is ridiculous." Richard was furious. "They stole from clients. How can they play the victim?" Evelyn read calmly but felt the anger growing inside her. "Who wrote this?" "A reporter named Michael Winters. Apparently he's a friend of Jason's brother." So it wasn't even impartial. It was revenge. "Mom, we need to sue the paper. We need to respond. This could destroy the reputation you've built," Evelyn thought. She could sue. She could pay for the best lawyers, drag it through the courts for years. Or she could do something better. "Call that TV show that wanted to interview me. The national one that airs in the evening. You're going to give an interview?" "I am. And I'm going to tell the whole story. Every detail. Let's see if after that people still think I'm the villain." The interview was scheduled for the following week. Evelyn spent the days preparing, gathering all the evidence, all the recordings, all the documents. She asked permission from some of the clients who were cheated to show their cases. On the night of the interview, Evelyn arrived at the studio accompanied by Richard and Barbara. She was nervous but determined. She wore a simple but elegant outfit, her hair tied back, minimal makeup. She wanted people to see her as she really was, an ordinary woman who built something extraordinary. The host, famous for his tough interviews, started by questioning her tactics. "Mrs. Evelyn, many think you acted unethically by pretending to be a cleaner to spy on employees. What do you have to say about that?" "I wasn't spying, I was investigating." Evelyn's voice was calm but firm. "I received several complaints from customers in the previous months, but when I sent someone to officially check, the employees would hide everything. The only way to uncover the truth was to see it with my own eyes." "But couldn't you have done it another way?" "I could have. I could have ignored the complaints. I could have fired everyone without concrete evidence. I could have sued based only on suspicions. But I wanted to do it right. I wanted to have irrefutable proof before ruining someone's life." "What about the employees who were fired? They say they were victims of a trap." Evelyn asked them to show a video she had prepared. It was a compilation of the most shocking recordings. Salespeople laughing at humble customers, Gregory explaining how to deceive the elderly, documents showing fraudulent charges. When the video ended, the studio was silent. "These people were not victims of a trap," said Evelyn. "They were victims of their own choices. They chose to steal. They chose to humiliate. They chose to break the trust that customers placed in them." The host then brought a surprise. 3 customers who had been deceived were in the studio. A 72-year-old woman who paid 20,000 reais extra for a car. A 65-year-old man who was pushed into an abusive loan. An 80-year-old woman who bought unnecessary insurance. Each of them told their story. Each explained how they felt cheated, humiliated, ashamed. Some cried as they remembered. "Did you see?" said Evelyn, her voice trembling with emotion. "These are the true victims, not the salespeople who were fired, but these people who worked their whole lives, who saved money through sacrifice, who trusted a company and were robbed." The host was visibly moved. "Mrs. Evelyn, what do you want people to understand from all this?" "I want them to understand that age is not a synonym for fragility or confusion. That elderly people deserve respect, not pity. That when someone treats us poorly because of our appearance or age, it says more about them than about us." Evelyn looked directly at the camera. "And I want business owners to understand that having a profitable business isn't enough. You need to have an ethical business." The interview was a huge success. The next day, it was in all the newspapers. Social media exploded with support for Evelyn. The newspaper that had published the negative article was forced to issue a public retraction. Tyler and Jason disappeared from the media, ashamed. But the most important thing was the impact the interview had. Dozens of other companies began reviewing their policies for serving the elderly. Laws were proposed in Congress for greater protection of elderly consumers. Evelyn was invited to speak at universities, at business events, at conferences on elderly rights. She accepted some invitations but always returned to her simple routine in her Silver Lake apartment. She continued having coffee at the corner bakery, watering the plants on the balcony, walking in the small park. Fame didn't change who she was. 6 months after all the commotion, on a quiet Thursday afternoon, Evelyn was at home when Richard appeared with news. "Mum, there's someone wanting to talk to you." "Who?" "An American journalist. She wants to write a book about your story." "I'm not interested. Shouldn't I even present the proposal?" Evelyn sighed. "All right, go ahead." The proposal was interesting. The journalist wanted to write a book about women business owners who overcame adversity. Evelyn would be one of the main chapters. Part of the profits would be donated to institutions working with elderly rights. "I'll think about it," said Evelyn. But before deciding about the book, something more urgent happened. Evelyn started receiving calls from elderly people all over Brazil, all with similar stories. They had been disrespected, deceived, humiliated in stores, banks, hospitals. They asked for help, advice, guidance. Evelyn couldn't respond to everyone, but that planted a seed. What if she created an organization, something dedicated to protecting and defending the rights of the elderly. She talked with her children, with Barbara, with other business people she admired. Everyone supported the idea. In 3 months, the Evelyn Harrington Institute for Elder Dignity was born. The institute offered several things: free legal guidance for elderly people deceived by companies, courses on consumer rights, workshops on how to protect oneself from scams. It also created a reporting channel where the elderly could report mistreatment in commercial establishments. Evelyn appointed Barbara as president of the institute. Her friend, recently retired from law, dove headfirst into the project. Matthew also got involved, organizing events at the dealerships to raise funds. 1 year after the institute's opening, they had already helped over 1,000 people. They recovered stolen money, shut down fraudulent businesses, pressured companies to change their policies. The impact was national. It was during an institute awards ceremony that Evelyn had another unexpected encounter. She was talking with donors when she saw Gregory. He was accompanied by a woman and 2 children. "Mrs. Harrington," he said as he approached, "it's been a year. I came to ask if there's still a chance." Evelyn looked at him. He was very different from the man she had met 2 years earlier. There was peace on his face, a genuine humility that wasn't there before. "Tell me what you've been doing," Gregory told her. He was still working at the small used car dealership. He had gone back to college, taking a night course in psychology. He wanted to understand human behavior, wanted to help other people not make the same mistakes he did. He had gotten back together with his wife. He saw his children every day now. He did volunteer work at a shelter, teaching at-risk youth about the job market. "Are your children proud of you?" Evelyn asked. "I think so. At least they're not ashamed anymore. That's something," Evelyn thought. She looked at Richard, who was nearby, and saw him give a small nod. "Monday, 9 in the morning," she said. "Report to the Wilshire Boulevard dealership. You'll start as a salesperson. Base salary. No special commission. If in 6 months you prove you've really changed, we'll talk about promotion. But at the first sign of dishonesty, you're out. Forever, understood?" Gregory had tears in his eyes. "Understood. Thank you, Mrs. Harrington. Thank you. I won't disappoint you." "Don't disappoint me. Disappoint yourself, your family, and all the people who will trust you." After he left, Richard approached. "You're a much better person than I am, Mom." "It's not about being a better person. It's about believing that people can change. Because if we don't believe that, what's the point of anything we do?" The institute continued growing. 2 years after its founding, it had offices in 5 states. Evelyn was no longer as active in the day-to-day, leaving that to younger people, but she participated in important decisions and attended events. On one such occasion, a gala fundraiser, she was sitting at the main table when she noticed something strange. She felt tired, more than usual. She had difficulty breathing. "Mum, are you okay?" Richard noticed she was pale. "Just a little tired." But it wasn't just tiredness. During dinner, the shortness of breath worsened. Evelyn tried to hide it, but Richard insisted on taking her to the hospital. In the emergency room, after several tests, the doctor gave the diagnosis. Evelyn had a serious heart problem. She would need surgery. Urgently. The next few days were a blur of doctors, tests, and conversations about risks and procedures. Evelyn was surprisingly calm. She was 73 years old. She had lived a full life. If it was her time, she was at peace. But her children were not at peace. The 3 of them took turns at the hospital, holding her hand, talking to her, trying not to show the fear they felt. The night before the surgery, Evelyn was alone in her room when Matthew appeared to visit her. "Mrs. Harrington, I didn't want to bother you, but I needed to see you." "Come in, Matthew. Sit here." He sat in the chair next to the bed, nervously holding a bouquet of flowers. "You changed my life," he said, his voice choked. "If it weren't for you, I'd still be at that dealership, being humiliated, watching people get cheated and doing nothing. You gave me courage. You gave me a chance. You taught me that doing the right thing is worth it. You already had all that inside you. You just needed an opportunity. I want you to know that no matter what happens tomorrow, your legacy is safe. The institute, the dealerships, everything you built, it will continue. We will keep treating people with respect, defending the elderly, doing everything right. I promise. Evelyn squeezed his hand. I know, and that gives me peace. After Matthew left, Evelyn thought about her life. How many battles she had faced, losing her husband so young, raising 3 children alone, building a business from scratch, facing discrimination, being underestimated, having to prove her worth repeatedly. And even with all that, with all the obstacles, she never lost her essence. She never became bitter or cruel. She never treated others the way she had been treated. The surgery was scheduled for 6 in the morning. Her 3 children were there, along with Barbara, Matthew, and to Evelyn's surprise, Gregory also showed up. I couldn't not come, he said. You gave me a second chance. The least I can do is be here. Evelyn was taken to the surgical center. Before the anesthesia took effect, she looked at the white ceiling and thought, if she survived this, there was still so much to do. The surgery lasted 6 hours. It was 6 hours of anguish for everyone waiting. Richard paced back and forth non-stop. The middle son, Robert, tried to stay calm but nervously bit his nails. The oldest daughter, Julia, prayed softly. When the doctor finally appeared, everyone jumped to their feet. The surgery was a success, he announced with a smile. Mrs. Harrington is fine. She'll still be in recovery for a few hours, but everything indicates she'll make a full recovery. The relief was so great that Julia broke down in tears. Robert hugged her, also crying. Richard leaned his hands on his knees, breathing deeply, trying to control his emotions. Evelyn woke up a few hours later, confused, in pain, but alive. Alive. The recovery was slow. Weeks in the hospital, then months of physical therapy. Evelyn hated being inactive, hated depending on others, but she gradually accepted help. She let her children take care of her. She let the nurses do their jobs. She learned to slow down, to rest, to take care of herself the way she had always taken care of others. During this time, many people visited. Clients she had helped, employees from the dealerships, people who worked at the institute. Each visit brought flowers, cards, stories about how Evelyn had impacted their lives. One day, 4 months after the surgery, Evelyn was finally discharged. She was weaker, slower, but she was well. She returned to her apartment in Silver Lake, to her plants on the balcony, to the view of the street she knew so well. That night, her 3 children made a special dinner for her. They cooked her favorite dishes, brought wine, made pie for dessert. It was a simple celebration, but perfect. "Mom, we have a surprise for you," said Julia after dinner. "What surprise?" Richard turned on the TV. It was a video recording. It showed the dealership on Wilshire Boulevard, but it had been transformed. There was a huge banner saying, "Evelyn Harrington Center for Dignity and Respect." "We renamed the dealership," explained Robert, "and not just this one. All 12 are now officially Evelyn Harrington Centers, so we never forget the values you built." Evelyn couldn't stop crying. "You didn't have to." "Yes, we did," said Julia. "You dedicated your whole life to building something bigger than yourself. Now it's time for you to get the recognition you deserve." The video continued showing each of the dealerships, all renovated, all with the new identity. But the biggest surprise came at the end. They showed a new building, beautiful, modern. The sign in front said, "Headquarters of the Evelyn Harrington Institute for Elder Dignity." "We raised funds and built a headquarters for the Institute," explained Richard. "It doesn't have to operate in rented rooms anymore. Now it has a complete space with an auditorium, service rooms, a library, everything." Evelyn was speechless. She looked at the 3 children she had raised, who had become incredible, generous, fair people. Everything she had been through, all the suffering, all the struggle, was worth it for this moment. 6 months after the surgery, Evelyn was strong enough to return to activities. Not all of them, of course. The doctors were clear that she needed to slow down, but she could give occasional talks, attend important meetings, visit the dealerships. It was on one of these visits that she had one last surprise. She arrived at the Wilshire Boulevard dealership without warning, as she liked to do. But this time she was greeted by a crowd. There must have been about 100 people there, all wearing T-shirts that said, "Thank you, Mrs. Evelyn." "What is this?" she asked, confused. Matthew approached. "Today marks exactly 3 years since that day. The day you walked in here and changed everything. and we wanted to celebrate. People started approaching one by one, telling their stories. They were customers who had been treated well in the store, employees who had been promoted on merit, people whose lives had changed because of the policies Evelyn implemented. An elderly lady, leaning on a cane, took Evelyn's hand. "I came here a year ago wanting to buy a car for my granddaughter, and for the first time in my life I was treated with respect. No one laughed at me, no one rushed me. They explained everything patiently, and when I left here I didn't just leave with a car. I left feeling that my age didn't make me less important." Evelyn hugged the lady, crying again. It seemed that in recent months she cried much more easily, but they were good tears, tears of fulfillment. The celebration continued with speeches, music, food. It was a beautiful party. But the most special moment came when a car arrived. It was a red Lamborghini, exactly like the one Evelyn wanted to buy 3 years ago. The 3 children got out of the car, holding a box with a big bow. "Mom," said Richard, 3 years ago you wanted to give us a gift, but we stopped you because you had to deal with so much, so now we want to give a gift to you." "Is it the Lamborghini?" Evelyn laughed. "The Lamborghini is just the beginning." Julia handed her the box. Inside was a car key, but there was also an envelope. Evelyn opened it. It was a ticket to Europe. And a letter. "Mum, you spent 73 years working, fighting, sacrificing yourself for everyone around you. Now it's time for you to live for yourself. This trip is just the beginning. We promise to take care of everything here while you rest, travel, do everything you always wanted to do but never had time for. We love you more than words can express. Your children." Evelyn looked at the 3 of them. Robert was beaming. Julia was discreetly wiping away tears. Richard looked at her with so much love that her heart nearly burst. "You didn't have to." "Of course we did." Robert hugged her. "You gave everything for us. Let us give back a little." Evelyn looked around. She saw all those people, saw the dealerships she had built, saw the legacy she was leaving behind, and she realized something important. She no longer needed to be in control of everything. She had created systems, trained people, established values that would continue without her. It was time to trust. It was time to rest. It was time to live. "All right," she finally said. "I accept, but on one condition." "What?" "You come with me, all of you. Let's make this trip a family trip." The 3 children exchanged glances and smiled. Done. 3 months later, Evelyn was at a cafe in London, drinking hot chocolate while watching the London Eye in the distance. Beside her were her 3 children, her 7 grandchildren, her 2 daughters-in-law, her son-in-law. The whole family gathered, laughing, talking, enjoying themselves. Her phone rang. It was Matthew. "Mrs. Evelyn, I hope I'm not bothering you." "Of course not. How are things there?" "Everything's great. Last month's sales exceeded the target by 30% and we had 0 customer complaints. 0. "That's wonderful, Matthew. And there's something else. You know Gregory?" "Yes?" "He was promoted to supervisor. He completed a year working here and has been exemplary. Honest, dedicated, patient with customers. He earned it." Evelyn smiled. "I'm glad to hear that. Send him my congratulations." After hanging up, she kept thinking about how life takes interesting turns. 3 years ago, she was kicked out of her own dealership for wearing old flip-flops. Today, she was in London, her family around her, knowing her business was thriving based on solid values. "What are you thinking about, Mom?" asked Julia. "Nothing. Everything. About how life is strange sometimes." "Strange how?" "Sometimes you need to be broken to rebuild stronger. You need to be humiliated to learn humility. You need to lose something to gain something better." Julia took her mother's hand. "You never lost anything, Mum. You've always been strong." "Not always. I had my moments of weakness, moments when I wanted to give up. But I learned that strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting up every time you fall." They stayed silent for a moment, just enjoying being together. "Mom," said Richard, "there's something I've always wanted to ask you, but never had the courage." "What?" "Do you regret anything? Any decision you made throughout your life?" Evelyn thought for a long time. "I regret not trusting people more. I spent so much time having to prove my worth, having to be strong alone, that I forgot to ask for help. I thought I needed to do everything alone to be respected. But I learned, a bit late, that trusting others isn't weakness. It's wisdom. You've always been wise, Mom. Not always. Wisdom comes with mistakes, with scars. It comes with the moments when you're forced to look at yourself and admit you were wrong. They continued talking for hours, about the past, about the future, about dreams and regrets. It was one of the deepest conversations Evelyn had ever had with her children. Back in the United States 2 weeks later, Evelyn resumed a lighter routine. She went to the institute twice a week. She visited the dealerships once a month. The rest of the time she dedicated to herself, painting classes, walks in the park, long lunches with friends, time with her grandchildren. It was on one of these free afternoons that she decided to do something she had been putting off for months. She went to the Wilshire Boulevard dealership, entered, and asked to speak with Gregory. He came running, worried. "Mrs. Evelyn? Is something wrong?" No, I just wanted to talk to you." They sat in one of the private offices. "Gregory, 3 years ago you asked me if I thought people could really change, remember?" "I remember." "And do you know what my answer was back then? You said you wanted to believe they could. And now I'm certain people change when they want to, when they're willing to do the hard work of looking in the mirror and admitting their mistakes. You did that work. And I wanted you to know that I'm proud of you." Gregory's eyes filled with tears. "That means more to me than you can imagine. And I want you to know something else. When I finally retire for real, when I can no longer be at the helm of all this, I'll recommend you for a higher leadership position, not because you owe me anything, but because you deserve it. Mrs. Evelyn, you've learned lessons that many never learn, and now you can teach those lessons to others. You can help other people avoid making the same mistakes you made. That's valuable." Gregory couldn't stop crying. "I'll honor that trust, every day, for the rest of my life." "I know." Another year passed. Evelyn was 75 now, feeling the weight of age but still strong, still lucid, still involved. The institute had expanded to 10 states. The dealerships were considered a national model for customer service. The book about her story was finally published and became a bestseller. But of all her achievements, the one Evelyn was most proud of was something simpler. She changed people's lives, one person at a time, one moment of respect at a time, one fair decision at a time. She was at the institute one afternoon when a young woman in her early 20s asked to speak with her. "Mrs. Evelyn, my name is Julia. I don't know if you'll remember, but 3 years ago my grandmother bought a car at your dealership. She was tricked, charged outrageous prices, and you not only returned the money but also paid compensation." "I do remember. How is your grandmother?" "She passed away last year, but until her last day, she told the story of how you treated her with dignity when everyone else treated her like a confused old woman. And she made me promise one thing, that I would pay that kind of treatment forward, that I would stand up for older people whenever I could." "And are you keeping that promise?" "I am. I just graduated from law school, and I'm here to apply for a volunteer position at the institute. I want to help. I want to continue the work my grandmother so admired." Evelyn smiled, feeling tears in her eyes again. "You're hired. Welcome to the team." As the years went by, Evelyn gradually reduced her direct involvement, but her legacy kept growing. More and more young people joined the institute, inspired by her story. Other companies implemented similar policies of respect for the elderly. Laws were passed better protecting seniors from abusive business practices. All because of a 70-year-old woman who refused to accept being treated as less, who had the courage to confront her own employees, who chose dignity over convenience. End of story. And you? What did you think of this story? Do you think Evelyn made the right decisions? How would you have acted in her place? Leave your opinion in the comments with sincere words, and don't forget to leave your like. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories we bring every week. Thank you very much for your company.